Welcome to Victoria Rumble Room. I'm Robin Adair. With me, as always, my co-host for the last 4 years, John Juricic, the Croatian Sensation. And Johnny, this is not only going to be our final show leading up to the election on the 28th of April, it's going to be our final show for the next several months. We're taking a hiatus on the Rumble Room, a little bit of a break. It's been 4 years. And we've made some milestones along the way.
Well, let's go through some of those. Number one, I get some daily exercise from my chair, which I'm going to miss. All this movement. So for you folks that get annoyed by that, going away. I'll tell you what's fascinating is how many folks have watched the show since we started this. And it's been across 6 platforms. You know that I go through all this at the end of the show. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, here and there and there and there and everywhere, to the tune of 3.3 million cumulative views, Robin. Are you kidding?
It's been doing well. It's been doing well, and we've tried to find as many avenues as possible to get the word out, John, and let people know what's going on. And I have to say that I'm very, very grateful. Very grateful to all the people that have tuned into the Rumble Room, the people that write the Rumble Room, and very nice comments when I've wandered the streets and people have recognized me and had comments about the show. And it's not lightly that we take this break, but the feeling was, certainly my feeling was, is that it had been 4 years. It had been a pandemic project. The pandemic was on. I just recently moved back to Victoria. I'm looking for something to do with my time. And I knew that you, John, were doing all these podcasts and video podcasts. And I phoned you out of the blue and said, hey, do you want to do a show?
Baby.
And I think we were up in a week.
Yeah.
And a lot of testing and a lot of trial and error as we went along. But I've had such a great time. And it's been such a privilege to do this program with you, John, and to just to have a chance to re-engage with my community, my province, and my country in this way. And let's talk about the election. It is going to be coming up here, and that is why we want to get an election flavor on this final show. And it's going to be tight. It's going to be tighter than people thought, and you can see that now in a new poll that's out from Main Street, and it shows that Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives are up 2.7% to 43.3. That is the top of the tables. If that holds, they could win the election, depending on the distribution of seats. The Liberals, a slight decrease. They're still at 41.4%. Neck and neck. The NDP actually slid below the Bloc Québécois to 4.7%. Looks like the New Democrats could be down to just a handful of seats nationally if things stand. And the People's Party and Greens both hovering around 1%. So it's an interesting stage that we are now climbing on to see the final results coming up on the 28th, John. And a preview, perhaps, of what we can expect in terms of leadership was to be held by all of us during the leaders' debate. What did you make of it?
Robin, for months now, for all of those 3.3 million viewers who watch us, I've been saying that Conservatives likely have a better policy set of all the parties, but that Poilievre needed to be kinder. He needed to be more human. He needed to be less abrasive. And guess what? He was, during the debate, much better, more human. I think he won by a landslide. And I think that's starting to reflect. It's going to start to reflect in the polls. This is going to be razor tight. He smiled, he laughed, he joked, and he just came across like I would always hope any leader of Canada to come across. And so I am now saying that he won that debate hands down. They all look. Jagmeet did what he had to do. The NDP guy had to do it. He had to create a stir. He had to be disruptive. Carney essentially just had to react to being attacked for the whole time. Poilievre was the strongest and won. And I think it's made things very, very tight for this upcoming election.
And yet Carney was the guy who time and time again during the debate said very clearly, I'm the guy to stand up against Donald Trump. Donald Trump and the Americans and the tariffs, still the number one issue in this election.
We are facing the biggest crisis of our lifetimes. Donald Trump is trying to fundamentally change the world economy, the trading system. But really what he's trying to do to Canada, he's trying to break us so the U.S. can own us. They want our land, they want our resources, they want our water, they want our country. I think we're all going to stand up against Donald Trump. I'm ready. I've managed crises over the years. I've built strong economies. We will fight back with counter tariffs. We will protect our workers and those businesses, and we will build the strongest economy. We will build Canada strong. I'm asking for your support, the honor of doing so. Thank you.
So notwithstanding who can do the best job in dealing with Donald Trump, it was really a situation where I thought Mark Carney was starting to sound more like a Trudeau liberal, and that was underlined with him announcing that the upcoming deficits are going to be huge. There's going to be a lot of spending coming up, which is, part and parcel of what we've seen the last 10 years during the Trudeau era. And Pierre Poilievre did do some really good work, John. You pointed that out. He was strong on the issues. At the same time, he was vulnerable. And he allowed people to see inside that veneer. And the man who was raised in Alberta, who has a good, healthy marriage, and is actually, by all standards, a pretty decent human being. Yeah. And so you got to wonder if this softer approach is going to really help in the long run, especially with women voters.
Only in Canada could someone start where I began and get to this stage. I was born to a single mother and adopted by school teachers who raised me to believe in the incredible Canadian promise that anyone who worked hard could do anything. That promise feels broken today. Many of you worried about paying your bills, feeding your families, or ever even owning a home. You're worried your kids are in danger. But I'm here to say it doesn't have to be this way. With change, we can restore the Canadian promise so that hard work gets you a beautiful house on a safe street under a proud flag. We can do it with hope for a change.
As for Jagmeet Singh of the NDP, he was like one of them Duracell bunnies. Like, he was interrupting constantly. And so, clearly it was deliberate. It wasn't just, I'm thinking about, you're saying the wrong thing. It was a strategy, a technique, and I don't know what benefit actually that made, except for people to talk about him. I don't know if they're going to talk about the NDP now in a positive way, but it was certainly annoying. And that annoyance was focused on him and his party. So I don't know what, I'd like to know at the end of the day what that strategy was meant to do.
Now, well, Mr. Carney has temporarily
but do you know the answer?
hid in the carbon gas
You're just throwing out
thousands of dollars.
He's making it up. We were able to fight to bring in dental care, pharmacare, and childcare because you voted for us, because you supported us. You have the power with your vote to send more New Democrats to Ottawa, to continue that fight, to make sure that no government cuts the things that we hold dear, like our health care, to ensure that we can do everything possible to make life more affordable by making it more affordable to buy your groceries and to get a home.
Well, how can we not go through a show, because we've asked every single one of our political guests ever in the 4 years, we've always asked them what is going to happen in the future. So it's our turn. I've been predicting a Liberal majority for quite a while, and I'm now not so certain about that. That was a powerful debate win, and we're only a few days out of it, so I don't think it's really sunk in how that's going to impact the voting. But this is too tight to call. How Quebec swings and how Toronto swings will be how this election swings. I have a sense that Quebec will probably stay Liberal to some degree. Now it's up to Toronto. I just don't know. This is now too tight to call.
I don't disagree with anything you're saying. Southern Ontario definitely has the most seats. It has the most clout in the country. And it looked like the Conservatives were doing very well there. They're still drawing huge crowds. Pierre Poilievre has been very strong in the debate. He's been very strong on the campaign trail. And I do think that Mark Carney showed that he's not an experienced politician during those debates. He didn't engage the camera. He didn't really talk or look directly even at his opponents. And he's got a bit of a wooden gait. He's still learning how to be a politician, and he's having to do it in a big hurry because he got landed in this, and now he has to see if he can win it. If in fact the Liberals do pull this out, I think people are going to look to him to hopefully be different than Justin Trudeau. Hopefully not running giant deficits, not, things as they were. We still need to have a lot of things change in this country. We need to be able to become more self-reliant, less reliant on the United States. Mm-hmm. We have to do something about our energy industry. We have to do something about the crime and the problems that we're having at so many levels in society that are reflected on our streets and, of course, in our courts. So I'm hoping that Mark Carney can do those things if he becomes leader. It's hard for me to say that I don't think he can win. I think it's still Carney's to lose, but it's maybe too close to call. It really depends on how people in Southern Ontario feel. I think the West is solidly going to go Conservative. I think, as you say, Quebec is likely to go Liberal, as will the Maritimes. So if Ontario swings back to the Liberals, it's all over. If they take a hard second look, you never know, John. So that's sort of where I stand on this. And, as we now get ready to say goodbye, and we will sit on the sidelines and watch the outcome of this election like everyone else with rapt attention, wanted to leave you, the viewer, with a sort of a thank you of all the different inputs and guest suggestions. And of course, some of you are actually guests of the show. We want to thank you as well, people who've actually agreed to come on and join us over the last 4 years and be part of the Rumble Room. So I've put together this overview of the last 4 years, some highlights and some of the amusing anecdotes and just amusing things in general. There were many, and some of the really good insight that we've had some very strong guests. I haven't got every guest in this, so if you are a guest who's been on the show and you're not included, it's not because we don't love you.
That's right.
I don't know how long this thing could have gone if I'd put everybody that we've had on the show in the last 4 years. It'd probably it takes several hours to get it all on. So anyway, this is a thank you note to all of you from us, from the Rumble Room, and I hope you enjoy it. It seems to me, and it seems to a lot of these pundits, it's going to be a misstep. It's going to be a Hindenburg moment, where the Hindenburg went happily across the Atlantic about 30 times, and then suddenly, magically, it didn't. It crashed, and that's what everybody remembers, and that's why it's on a Led Zeppelin album. So, do you think that we could see a gaffe of some type? We've seen it provincially. We've seen it at other times in other parts of the country. We've seen it in national races. Would you see a gaffe, and could a gaffe actually be created because maybe something that Donald Trump says or does during the campaign?
That's interesting. I actually think my prediction is we will get a Liberal majority government. Isn't that a shocker? But
that was my prediction too, which Robin completely disagreed with. Yes, sir.
I don't see it, but
this is why I told you John is the host with the mostest.
The music, the food, the service, the people.
Yeah.
Your father, and now you. But really at the top of the list is this bread. This bread that is delivered as soon as you walk out.
Yeah.
Tell me some stories about this bread. Have you ever run out? Have you ever, have you ever had to make it? Have you ever had to, change the process or anything?
Oh, constantly. Everything about that.
And only 3 years to Paris 2024, not the normal 4, right? So right, don't have to go that long to wait.
Well, that means you can keep working until you work there 50 years.
Oh, that's the next 4 years. That's the next quad. I was going to retire after Tokyo, but this is such not a satisfying experience, the way this has turned out, that there's only 3 more years. So I think I've sort of Paris 2024 is now my sort of long-term goal to keep going until then.
They can have a nice send-off party for you at the home.
That's right.
To see these anti-vaxxers parading behind the exhaust fumes of these trucks, trying to climb on some kind of confused trucker complaint, was pretty disappointing. I know the level of frustration in the public is huge at this point, but the whole premise of the truckers parade across the nation is so basically flawed.
I would like, frankly, to assure people in Canada that we do not have to worry that this law in the States is going to permeate into Canada. It is not. I would like to hear our political leaders telling us that, reassuring us of that, as opposed to using the issue as a bit of a political football, frankly.
Hello, McGinty.
Oh,
The number
look
of dogs
at
in our
that.
community, and that's only grown. And we just are a pet-loving community, and you can tell that by the dog off-leash parks that we have, etc. So that it's just fascinating how we continue to grow with the heart of the community. That includes our pets.
We simply can't survive without visitors, because regrettably what happened in the first year or two of the pandemic is that elected officials, very popular elected officials and other officials, gained political advantage by keeping things closed. And keeping Canadians safe was a line that was used over and over and over again. We are a nonpartisan organization, but these are the headwinds that our industry has to overcome.
One of the more emotional interviews we conducted with Commander Peter Chance, who's now 102 years old. He served at Juno Beach on D-Day, setting an inspiring example for us all.
Commander Peter Chance is a legend in the Navy, an incredible career. We heard about him and had the opportunity to get in touch with him, and he agreed.
I feel so honored to meet these people. It seems like we meet them and instantly become almost like old friends.
And they came in the next day, and they were able to get alongside and open up the bombardment. Anyway, all that was very exciting. Yours truly is a young 20-year-old and a bit. It was quite an eye-opener and part of my history that I remember very vividly.
And now joining us in the Victoria Rumble Room for the first time, Shachi Curl from Angus Reid. And Shachi, so great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Robin. What are British Columbians saying about primary care and healthcare? First of all, as we know, it's just one of those issues, along almost always with economic issues, that are really at the top of the list, regardless of where you live in this country. And at times, no pun intended, those issues can become far more acute in certain parts of the country than others.
We need doctors now in Victoria. My doctor's in Ladysmith. Get a load of that.
How does BC Healthcare Matters feel about the national stage and shifting to the national stage with this issue?
Well, I think we are residents of British Columbia and we are residents and citizens of Canada. And so any measures that help improve universal health care across the country, we're in support of that.
For a new band-aid, and right in the middle of this, sticking right in the middle of all this, is this doctor shortage. Man, will that be a huge issue. Robin, I think it's time now to switch topics again.
We are switching over, John. We are switching over because that's what we love to do on the Rumble Room as we rumble around. And this is an issue we've been following for months, John.
It's really unfortunate that the war is started in the first place, but what the Russians are doing to these people, like bombing civilians, bombing schools, bombing hospitals, and bombing supermarkets now, they're using the citizens of Ukraine as targets.
Well, part of our goal, part of our mission working with Global Medic and their sister organization, Global Fire, was to actually assist with the delivery of firefighting equipment and more in particular, fire rescue equipment. You know, they were pretty good at putting out fires, but not cutting rebar, not breaking up concrete, you know, not finding trapped individuals. So their request is, in fact, for rescue equipment, which Global Medic and Global Fire are providing.
But people would still like to help. They'd make a contribution in any way they can. And one person who's landed on a great idea is Paul Bereskin, who is an Airbnb owner. He was talking about how this is a vehicle to get money directly into the hands of people in the Ukraine.
I saw an article today from the Toronto Star, and over 3,000 people across Canada have booked rooms or suites in Ukraine through Airbnb. And clearly the people who booked them don't plan to go there, but they booked them for 2 or 3 days. And if your Airbnb booking in Ukraine is approved, that money goes to the family. So yesterday, my wife and I, we did the very same thing.
And the thing with the United States, though, as much as Trump might want to say, okay, I'm in power and we're not going to support Ukraine and we're not going to do anything with Gaza and so forth, the bottom line is, and American leadership is absolutely required on the global stage. And whoever's in the White House, as much as they would like to walk away from these issues and say, well, it's not our concern, they always get drawn back in. So it's inescapable. So they will need to do something. Now, it could be for the worse. And that would be abandoning Ukraine, for example, or abandoning the Palestinian people.
The difference between then and now is that he's older. Maybe he's slipping a little in his head, which he's been doing for a long time, but I think he's worse. He also, I believe Donald Trump is as good as the last person he talked to.
For 3 years, I worked full-time at the Commonwealth Games in '94. So Victoria is my second home, and I feel like I know it well. And the book was a ton of fun to research and write, and it's our baby. It's just been born. It's like, it takes about a year to make one of these. It takes 9 months to give birth to the gestation period of a child. The gestation period of a book is about a year, working pretty hard and hitting deadlines and rewrites and working with editors and publishers. And we're really proud of it. It's got lots of nice color pictures in it.
Yeah. Well, welcome, Dave, to the Victoria Rumble Room.
Rumble on.
There was no question. I believe that counsel is a part-time position, but I'm very aware over the years I've done it, I work 60 to 75 hours a week. I don't complain about it because I like doing it, but I'm paid on a part-time basis. And I think once you get into it and you're passionate about it, you say, look at all this time I'm not being paid properly. You go, well, the deal was.
So, I mean, a lot of people are still using their units as vacation rentals because they had pre-booked them. So there's no need for them to sell or go to market. I think we'll see more come May. And getting back to your comment about a 10% price decrease, I think it's entirely possible that we could see an adjustment like that in specific segments, like the micro unit segment.
What do you think when you hear Victoria Councillor Jeremy Caradona saying the era of single-family home zoning has now come to an end thanks to new missing middle bylaws? He most recently talked about this regarding a car-free sixplex that's replacing a single-family home. The neighbors aren't happy about it. What's your view? What's your thinking on this stuff?
Well, there needs to be more accommodation of missing middle, because if you look at CMHC's latest housing starts, missing middle new construction is down 55%. And that's the product that young families, millennials, need. So there does need to be more accommodation of that. But the challenges associated with actually doing it, with respect to all the regulatory hurdles that the city of Victoria put in there, we'll see what the result of that is.
Are they really working? They say we have these new programs for housing, all these new opportunities for young people to buy their first home on the ground. Is this really happening? We asked Victoria Realtor Kevin Singh.
No. Short answer. It still takes way too long to get anything underway. The big issue is municipalities have to really walk the walk. They do a lot of talk, but they're really not performing the way it needs to be.
We've had all these fascinating guests, but I don't think any of them have been quite as fascinating as my co-host with the most, John Juricic, also known as the Croatian Santa himself. And Johnny, I'm loving the garb.
Well, I'm not entirely sure who Johnny is or who the Croatian Sensation is, but I am Santa Claus.
With Trudeau leaving, this is really putting the pressure on the NDP government here.
Wow. Hey, David, a little bit depressing. So I'm glad that this might change. I'm glad it will.
Well, but one thing you got to remember, the Montney in northeastern British Columbia is massive. It's a lot bigger than Alberta. We've got so much nat gas to benefit from it, and to the corridor up to northeastern BC and to down south. But in the meantime, we're selling our nat gas at $2 while it goes down to the Gulf in the U.S. So they send it to Europe for $10 to $12.
It's nice to have a chance to let my hair down and let it go as I see it. Hopefully, engaging as well with all your many viewers.
I love letting my hair down. That's the best part of the interview. Hey, we've just looked at this new report by the Canadian Climate Institute. In no uncertain terms, it's saying abandon oil and gas and go electric, baby. We've been spending billions on a new oil pipeline to Port Moody here in BC, hundreds of millions more for the pipeline and facility in Kitimat on the West Coast. Is it really our best strategy to turn off the tap?
Well, you turn off the taps, you might as well turn off your economy as a whole. It's 10% of your GDP or greater, not to mention the direct impact, which is, you have fuel rather than bringing it in from some unsavory countries. I don't know, Iran, Venezuela, Russia, take your pick. If Canada's not producing it, having the third largest provable reserves in the world, then someone else is going to pick up on it.
I think if the Conservatives are smart, they'll really hone in on some kitchen sink issues, and they'll keep pounding away on the other side and force those polling numbers down. At that point, who knows what happens? BC is the Wild West of politics, and you can never predict anything here.
Yeah. Well, Mark and I live on an island that, as all three of us do, for that matter, which houses very much Green Party support. There's a leader of that party that's not a member of MLA. What impact does the Green Party have on all of these discussions?
Well, unfortunately, these are the best positions for them ever. If you look at federally with Singh, the NDP has never had it so good, where they can prop up the government and get what they want, and they can take shots when they want at the things they say they disagree with. So the Green Party's in the same position here.
The former Solicitor General, former Deputy Premier under the illustrious BC Liberals, remember them? Yeah. Anyway, we're back to talk about
Fondly, actually, fondly.
Yes, I'm sure there's a lot of reminiscing going on right now, but the BC Conservatives came within a hair's breadth, but they have fallen short, and the NDP on a razor's edge. They have now a majority government of one seat, a majority government to go forward. What's your reaction to all this, Rich?
Well, it's kind of like watching a former movie that I watched once before on the reverse side. But, it really is. It's, I have a number of reactions. One is sort of like surprising, because I really did think that if they made the right decisions and reached out and reached across the line when that whole thing came down with the BC United and the BC Conservatives, that they would have had a stronger coalition going into an election.
How difficult has this been to deliver programs and deliver good government over time? Some people are saying this is the best way to do it. I don't think that.
Yeah, no, this is, to use the phrase, a hung parliament in the real dramatic sense of it, that we are dangling in the air. If you think of the metaphor of hung, sometimes we use that hung parliament, and you have governments that have a strong minority. In other words, they haven't got a majority, but
the distance between them and the second place party is, that there's some daylight between them, and there's maybe some daylight between them in terms of popular votes. This is like razor thin, both on the popular vote. I mean, the difference is what, 80, 90,000 votes? When you count up 2 million plus voters.
Obviously, these are very early days, but it seems to me that a concerted message to our friends, even in Washington State, because they're wondering where we are. How come we haven't come down to see them? And I'm sure we don't want to discourage folks from coming up still from the United States to spend their hard-earned dollars in the summertime, and we have this cruise ship business. Is it time for us to be sending a message as well to Americans, reminding them that we're not bad people, and maybe they should tell their government to be nicer to us?
Well, I certainly think that part of the strategy that the premiers and the bureaucrats that are down in the States are talking to a variety of different political leaders and from both parties, I think, to deliver that message. So I would be shocked and surprised if a BC contingent that's down in Washington is not talking to Washington State senators and Congress people to deliver that message.
I just want to congratulate you on 45 years. This is such a legacy for this community, and a lot of people have come and gone through PAGS over the years, including my own family. My wedding party came here to celebrate after we got married, and that was 40 years ago.
That sounds like so much fun.
So much fun.
The superstar restaurant of Canada, Poilievre's.
And now with us once again, easily one of our favorite guests as we move towards the end of 2024. And she's agreed to come on and withstand more Rumble Room in 2025. Judy Tyabji, all the way from Peachland. So nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, Robin. I just can't resist beating you in a debate.
So there you have it. There you have it. So thank you again to all the people that have participated in the Rumble Room. I want to thank our viewers. I want to thank my wife, my long-suffering wife, who has stood by me while I embarked on this project, this hobby job that has taken up a lot of time, but it's been such a pleasure to do. And I really want to thank my co-host with the most, John Juricic. It's been such an honor, and it's been so much fun to work with somebody. John and I got to know each other on the Chamber of Commerce board, and we really hit it off. And that connection has fed into this program, and it's been one of the real highlights of my broadcasting career, actually, putting this together and working with you, John. So thanks very much for that. It's been great fun.
Wow. I might get emotional, but I'm not going to. I'm going to try hard not to. 3 things, Robin.
Just wave your arms around.
Yeah, and I'll put the text up there.
Okay.
First of all, I've learned so much from you. It's not every day or anyone who gets a chance to work with a professional reporter, journalist, and broadcaster as I have. I've learned a ton from you, and I thank you so much for that. Secondly, we've had so much fun. I cannot believe the amount of laughs that we have on this show. One day, we should, no, I guess we won't, but maybe one day we'll publish some of the recordings that we didn't publish.
Well,
we had a lot of fun.
You always get that on Rebel News or something.
Right.
Yeah.
But thirdly, most importantly, out of all these things, despite this being digital platform, despite this being a new age communication, at the end of the day, it's just a couple of guys that have become better friends. And I have become such a close friend of yours that I never expected. And frankly, that'll be tough to replace. So we're going to have to find ways to talk to each other and continue what I think is now a very strong friendship. Robin, thank you for this.
You're very welcome.
And for now, I remain the Croatian Sensation, a tag that many folks have now attributed to me. But fundamentally, I am simply John Juricic. And we'll see you in the fall. Take care, everybody.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to that. We promise that we will come back in some way, shape, or form. We just need a little bit of time to retool. And as we are away, I encourage you at all times and all ways possible to enjoy life and to rumble on.